Hey everyone, welcome to this 71st edition of ClariTeaChat Chat. Today we have with us Vijay Balakrishnan, Chief Data and Analytics Officer of United Phosphorus Limited, an Indian multinational company. Hey Vijay, welcome to the session.
Hello Jagdish. Cheers.
Cheers, man. So Vijay, before I go ahead, can you give a 1 minute sort of description of what UPL does?
Sure. So, United Phosphorus Limited, UPL Limited, traditionally has been focusing around crop protection. But our ultimate goal is maximizing value for the grower community. So that's what we are here for. So we extend our services from seeds through crop protection to post-harvest grain and produce care and farm services. So as you can see, we run across the spectrum of needs that the growers community will have, and we cater to all those needs.
Awesome. And I'm sure this must be very fulfilling because as Gandhiji used to say, the real India lives in villages and does farming.
Absolutely. And the real Indian digital actually supports those villages also.
Absolutely. So, so just for everyone, Vijay's philosophy is before you go deeper, before you go wider, go deeper. That means knowing business as well as technology end to end is as important as knowing it in sufficient depth, and you do it one at a time. So don't be deterred by the breadth of it all. Just take it one at a time and go sufficiently deep. So Vijay is an alumnus of PSG College of Technology and an MBA from IIT Delhi. He's a manufacturing analytics leader, having worked in GE, Michelin, and now UPL. So our chat with Vijay is going to cover insights in the three areas. Discussion on data and analytics strategy and governance, sharing some insights on data democratization, and one thing that defines the blazing growth of Vijay is this small habit of continuous learning for professional growth and knowledge and new experiences. So he's going to share about that. So we'll end the chat with a rapid fire round to bring out the personal side of Vijay, and then there'll be a reverse question from Vijay to me. So let's hear the inspirational growth story of an application engineer turned Chief Data and Analytics Officer. We'll get to hear in detail how it was shaped, what philosophies and styles he used. So Vijay, before we get into the serious topics, let's get some energy going up, okay? So here is my googly to you, okay? So you said that you are good at explaining technology to non-technology people. Mm-hmm. So please explain data lake to our audience, and it has to be a little fun and little crisp.
Okay. So data lake, right? Let's take everybody's lives for a second, right? We have major events going on in our lives, and we take input from many people. There are a lot of people around you that keep suggesting you what is there, what is not. So what do, right? You try to first take all those inputs, segregate the ones you really need, and make sure that you use that to your decision making. So during the second wave, I had the opportunity to live with my wife, my mother, and my mother-in-law in the same house for a year. um, so this was a time where, let's say, so the data lake came into existence. In fact, we precluded some of the other inputs that would have otherwise come into various events, various planning. But then, all the complexity, all the commotion was inside our house, which was the data lake. But we took some very good decisions. We, in fact, managed to plan an event for our son and so on. So that's probably borderlining from data lake to lake house, right? So that's probably why they call us lake house. But I have this theory of law of conservation of complexity. Complexity can never be created or destroyed. It can just be transferred from one place to another. And data lake is where we kind of intrinsically take care of all the complex stuff and make sure the interaction with data becomes very simpler.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you, Vijay, for that. And I really like that house analogy. And I can imagine what it would have been like, in that complex atmosphere, living with your mother and mother-in-law and wife. Okay, so
It's not easy to manage the data lake ecosystem. Huh?
I can understand. I can understand. I mean, they are anyway so full of information and knowledge that sometimes you can get confused. Yeah. So let's move ahead. But before I start grilling Vijay, let me acknowledge our audience out there. So we have CXOs, founders, IT managers, and seasoned technology industry leaders in our audience. All of us know that technology is necessary but not sufficient to drive business performance. The guests on our Clarity Chat, like Vijay, they have built the bridge between necessary and sufficient with their art of managing technologies. So Clarity Chat builds that bridge between their learnings and brings these to all of you who are trying to make an impact with technology. So thank you all for joining us for the last 70 weeks and encouraging us with your interactions, engagement, and being in the audience. Let's see who we have here. But before I do that, may I request our audience to share their name and where you're joining from in the comment box of YouTube or LinkedIn. So let's see if we have anybody here. I can see only one guy announcing his presence, and that's Dattatray Phatnaik from Oman. Hey, Dattatray, good to see you here. And everyone else, please make your presence felt. The studio sometimes is like a lonely place where it looks like only me and Vijay are talking. And as your comments keep pouring in, that tells us that we are in good company. So keep them coming. So Vijay, let's begin with a quick recap of your childhood up to your first job.
Okay, sure. So it was so I'm a single child born to a single child. So what that translates into is that other than a few maternal cousins I meet once or twice a year, my childhood was pretty much lonely. That translated into the fact that I was quite an extrovert within the house, but I was not very good at accosting people, talking to, making relationships outside the family, and so on. So that's how I grew up. And I stepped out for the first time in my life during college. And that's where I think a little bit of inner reality came out, right? So I was genetically not that way, but situationally, I was made as an introvert. So I kind of had to self-remade myself so that I find that inner stability, and that's when I met a lot of people, a lot of very interesting characters in my life during my 4 years in BTech, again, a couple of years during my MBA. I think those were the times, and of course with my work in between and after, right? So that kind of transformed the introvert in me into a extremely opposite guy, which is an extrovert. I can talk to new people. I love talking to new people. I look forward to meeting new people as well. So uh, that's in a gist how I grew up and transformed to be ready for the professional world.
That's great. That's great. So it's like, the fox was hiding in the sheep's clothing for a very long time.
uh, I wouldn't say fox, but maybe a domesticated tiger.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But tell us a little bit more about, like, what were your subjects in engineering and MBA, and then like, getting into your first job, and what was it like?
Sure, sure. So, in fact, during the towards the end of my schooling, I found interest in uh, transistors, electronics, and so on. So it was not because everybody was doing so, but I really was looking forward to doing my electronics and communication engineer. But a year and a half into the course, I realized, oh, okay, so that's not going to really be my cup of tea, right? So, or my cup of coffee. So, I kind of started looking into where I could focus, and it was a school friend of mine who introduced me to programming, Java, and so on. At that time, it was not very common, specifically for a guy going from matriculation to non-computer science engineering. Coding was not a main focus during those days. But then I loved it. I started writing, in about 3 to 4 months, I started writing my custom UI for Oracle database with some directional inputs from my friend. So that's how my software skills started getting developed. And a couple of years with Oracle, but then later when I did my MBA, my grassroots was math. I always loved math. So I was very sure that I will do an MBA and become a finance manager. So that's how I kind of picked up finance as my major during MBA. But it was my uncle who kind of struck me to the reality that that's not how the corporate world works, right? So it's a lot of struggle becoming a senior professional in the finance world. But that happened later towards my life. So MBA in finance and electronics and communication engineering.
Okay, okay, no, that's great. That's great. So, yeah, now let's go through, like, a quick bird's eye view of your career. Like, what were your different strengths, and maybe, like, one takeaway. See, what people would like to know here is, what Vijay is. How did he start out as a fresh, MBA out of the college, and then, like, what are the, like, what are some of the stepping stones, what have made you what you're today. So talk about your stints, and maybe, like, one highlight from each stint.
Absolutely, Jagdish, right? So I wouldn't categorize or at least visualize them as stepping stones, like I'm stepping on something, but I'm looking at some things that actually pull me, towards my next level, right? Uh, so my first work experience was with Oracle. So I was part of Oracle India. I was there for 2 years as an applications engineer. Um, there are many things I loved about Oracle. It's a fantastic company, but the most of it all was for the the technology geek in me. We used to have games where we need to replicate patterns through SQL logic. So they used to release a pattern around 4 p.m. and then we need to write a SQL logic that kind of prints the pattern. And the first one, in fact, the first one to submit the right query wins and so on, right? So I have won like 3 times, but more importantly, I was participating every day. So there was a lot of technology oriented gaming and all that, right? Today we talk a lot about gamification. How do we employee retention and so on. It was just done intuitively back in Oracle. And then I did my 2 years of MBA, and then I joined G. Uh, I owe a lot to that company. So today, and there is a common saying: you can take people out of G, but it's very tough to take G out of people. I have seen it. I've realized I'm a living embodiment of that statement itself. So I learned a lot in G. There is every fabric of mine that speaks volumes about what a great company GE was. And I'm not able to call out a particular learning, but then learning is my call out, right? So I continuously focused on learning, irrespective of who you see, however senior they are. They are all there is a continuous inquisitiveness to learn something new. That's what I found across GE, across the businesses, across the globe. That is something I kept with me, okay, as a habit. And then I was with GE for about 10 to 12 years, and then I joined Michelin. They gave me the wonderful opportunity to become the group CDO based out of India. At that time, I think my biggest, uh, at least philosophy was, in today's world, you can have group level decision making strategic roles being out of anywhere, not just India, being out of anywhere. So this and the role that was offered to me at Michelin was to prove that point as well, and I was so happy to take that up. And then and this year in September, I've joined UPL. Like you said, uh, it's going to be the same thing that I do here, right? So digital transformation through data and analytics. This will be the third time, but I'm feeling so proud of the fact that I'm very closer to agri. I'm very closer to the heartbeat of not just India, but many countries globally, many economies globally, and I'm going to touch the lives of many people. Through what we do here in terms of agricultural solutions. So that's an gist.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, so you mentioned about you can take someone out of G, but you can't take G out of him. So even same with me, even though I was in G for just about 3 years, even in my advisory, I do bring in a lot of inputs from G, and I think I would say the real big thing, if you say in one word about G, it is like people and leadership. The way the organization is built, the way the processes are, the way I would say they keep people in the center, and everything around. So one part of it is learning, the other part of it is I haven't ever seen a process like a people review anywhere, where
Mhm.
a committee, a group of people is discussing the talent downwards in the organization, and those intense discussions are like what bring out the next level of leaders. So, and there are many such processes which define G. So
Absolutely.
absolutely agree with you on that. Yeah. So Vinay, now let's jump into something which defines your blazing growth, and that's learning. And not just learning, but this the power of small habits, which is learning continuously and learning from others. So tell us, tell us about it.
Yeah, so the answer is going to look like data lake in action. Okay, so there's a bunch of various things that contribute to this philosophy. uh, I want to call out one of my biggest mentors of all time. His name is Bhaskar Ramni. um, he was the first one who told me to go deep. When I saw a lot of people, a lot of my friends who had doing different things overall. They were trying to go broader and get a good exposure of everything. While that is good, specifically through the leadership program in GE. Immediately after that, it was Bhaskar who told me, now it's a time for you to go deep. So keep your head down. Don't get distracted. I was potentially getting distracted, and Bhaskar was the one who was continuously making sure that I focus on going deeper. And in this case, for me, deeper meant data and analytics, right? So that's how it happened. It was by chance, not by choice, very clearly. And now I look back, I'm so happy about everything that has happened. The second thing is, um, there was my another mentor, Charles, who told me that I have to try and balance between learning and leading people, because the scope of what you do, the scope of your impact to the company multiplies when you start leading a team, when you start imparting your ideology, your thought process to an organization of your own, right? So that is where my learning every quarter kind of a ticker came up, because when I first became a people manager, I was warned by the HR that, oh, you can be, but if you want to be a people manager, you cannot continue to be intuitively. Like I said, I'm a loner transformed into an extrovert. I love talking to people, I love connecting to people. I started asking, but through genuine interest, what do they do? And every discussion, every answer to your question, to the question on what do you do, was a learning point for me. And thirdly, data analytics is something that cannot be disjoined in today's world. Any technology component cannot be disjoined from business. So as much as we want the business teams to learn about data and analytics, we from the data analytics team have to learn about business. So I spent almost 10 years with GE Transportation. I learned so much about a locomotive. In fact, there was once a time that a locomotive engine was free. I actually rode a locomotive engine as well. I, in fact, trained to assemble a locomotive engine in one of the training centers of GE and so on. And likewise, so when I joined Michelin, I learned all about tires. I learned how a tire is made, etc. So going back to the philosophy of small habits to learn, like I said, it is a mix of my personality alignment to talk to more people versus with the team focus and my intent to learn something new, and I need to have some kind of a discipline around that. And thirdly, the importance of learning business, right? And that doesn't come naturally to technology folks, but that's kind of started working together towards a learning methodology that I developed for myself.
Oh no, this is. I mean, I absolutely echo that sentiment, Vijay, because many times, when we approach anyone or when we approach a discussion or approach anyone, it's more like talking about yourself, right? And trying to make an impression. I think all of us want to make an impression when we meet somebody. I think it takes a little bit of counterintuitive thinking to be curious about the other person and say, what do you do? How do you do it? Right. And you know what? It aligns very well with what I said just now, that everyone talks about himself. Yeah. So if you just keep yourself a little beside yourself and get the other person to talk about what does he do, I think there's so much to learn. And this is something which I also follow. Just a little bit, on that from my side. When I was a service engineer and I was going into the field, I was really scared because I knew the circuits and I knew the heady stuff, the engineering stuff, but I didn't know how to change engine oil. Okay.
Mhm.
And I was like, what if the guys in the field come to know that I don't know how to change engine oil? And one of my friends said, you know what? Just ask them. Okay.
Mhm.
Hey, do you know how to change the engine oil? And this operator, who's being paid 15,000 a month, he will like, how dare you ask me that question? And he'll show you, and that's how you learn. And that's how I learned the small things. The big things I learned, in the factory in Jamshedpur. All these small things on how to replace a fuse and how to change engine oil. Those guys down the line at the operator level, people, they taught me. So yeah, I mean, there's a big power in keeping yourself a little behind and being curious about other people. I think the second thing you talked about the small habits, which is like learning something every quarter. And third thing, very importantly, learning about business. Sometimes analytics. I call analytics as a sort of secondary set of data. The primary is like where you have business transactions. And
Correct.
even there, like, if you have that curiosity that you're learning how to make tires and you're learning, assembling locomotives, I think that tells a lot about, what makes you successful. Because the kind of empowerment that gives you when you talk to anyone in the business, right from top to bottom, they know that, hey, you know what, I mean, you are you are part of business. You're very much part of business. You're not just a geek coming out of somewhere and telling people, like, how to build a dashboard or how to do something more efficiently, but you are like right down there in the business, and knowing what it takes to do that, right? So,
Absolutely.
Vijay, before I go forward, I do see a lot of comments which came in, from our audience here when I said, please tell us who you are, where you're joining from. So, we do see a little bit of crowd here. So, you and I are not alone. So, we have Ritesh Singhal joining us from Pune. Hi, Ritesh. I'm in Pune as well. So, Yashu Sharma from Ahmedabad joining us. We have Mohan Pant joining us. Hi, Mohan. We have Jyot. You know Mohan?
I just said hello to everyone.
Ah, okay, okay, okay.
Some-
But by the way, if you know anyone, if anyone is your colleague or ex-colleague, do say a warm hi, okay? So
I-
we have Prabjot Singh Uppal joining us from Surat. We have our ex-G colleague Miraj Washi.
I'm
Um,
a leader in the society.
oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay. Hey, thanks for joining, Miraj. Yeah, seeing you after quite some time, man. And I know it's a Vijay who pulled you in. Yeah. So we have Praful Patel joining us from Gandhinagar. I see a lot of Gujarat in today's session. We have Gandhinagar, Ahmedabad, Surat, and we have Sumit joining us from Baroda, of course. And we have Vijay. Vijay is a G colleague, G transportation colleague. Hi Vijay, thanks for joining us. And then we have Madhavan joining us from Abu Dhabi. Okay, beyond Gujarat, further west. So we have Priyanshu Khandwala joining us from Mumbai, working for UPL and Tata Motors. Hi Priyanshu. And yeah, you will get to know Vijay. I don't know Vijay if you already know Priyanshu.
Uh, yeah. So he has got both of us connected. So fantastic.
Yeah, yeah. Feels good that I'm connecting people within UPL. Okay, and we have Souveek. Hi Souveek. Souveek is our same old colleague, right? Souveek Ray.
Yes,
Yes,
yes. I'm going to be
yes,
my
yes,
new colleague also.
yes, yes, yes. Okay. Hey Satish, Satish joining us from Bangalore. We have Bhushan joining us from Mumbai. Again, UPL. Oh, there seems to be a lot of curiosity within UPL about who's this dude called Vijay Balakrishnan.
Exactly. Who the hell is this guy?
I mean, looks smart, talks smart. Let's see. Yeah, yes, yes, yes. Savik, yes, I got you, man. You have a nice photo out there. We have Akul Sharma joining from Bangalore. And Bhushan,
Okay.
did I call out Bhushan? Yeah, Bhushan from UPL. Yeah. And we have um, uh, another one from UPL Delhi, which is Prajakta. So good. Looks like Vijay, before a UPL insider session happened on Hey, know your new leader. Looks like ClariTeaChat Chat is happening. Okay, interesting, interesting. So let's move forward, guys. Keep the, I mean, if you have questions about Vijay or for Vijay, please keep them coming. This is a live show. That means your questions get answered here. I haven't seen a question as yet, but please ask your question. So Vijay, we sort of kind of got a quick view of like what your childhood was, what your education was, and then like what are the most important foundation of your rising quickly to this level, which is like learning. Okay, so now let's jump into your passion, data and analytics. Where does that come from, and how has been that data and analytics journey?
Perfect. To start with, you know what? At my place during my childhood, I've always been a math guy. My dad is an MSc in math, which translates into the fact that it's okay, if I don't do that well in other subjects, but math has to be 100 out of 100. And so I did. So we had a like pseudo public examination for our 11th. So I scored a 10% in math in 10th, 11th, and 12th. There was a
Wow.
natural inclination towards focusing around data. That translated when I joined my MBA into the finance world, right? So I understood corporate finance. I was preparing for CFA level one. I was actually well prepared. CFA, I registered, and in that year it got cancelled in India for some reason. So that was how it all started. But to be honest, the data analytics focus came because the first analytics, in fact, BI project that I did, I I I loved people's reactions to it, right? Because, like you said, the tier one application suite is your transactional suite, which creates your business. But from a people impact perspective, that is looked at as pain, right? Because you have to go to screens, enter data. There are rules of how you do it, specifically for smaller companies trying to evolve into a next level of maturity. It becomes a lot of change in practice. BI becomes a savior suddenly, like the movie climax, and you give everything at the click of a button. And I love that. Honestly, I love the feeling. I love the high it gave me when people said, "Oh, really? That's it! Fantastic! You have just saved my world. I was spending 4 hours every week. I never knew this was the problem." So these feedback started getting into my head to say that, "Oh, okay, fantastic! I'm a people's person. People love what I do when I'm part of BI. That should be how I should do it." I never knew what was the future of it. I never knew the art of possible that it would grow into and all that. So that's how the entire data analytics focus started. And like I said, I try to learn something new in the last 6 to 7 years. It has all been about data analytics. I've tried not to deviate much outside data analytics. So I try to find a direct correlation or something that is very close to that. So that's how my passion grew around data analytics.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, so yeah, tell us a little bit about your other stints afterwards. I mean, I know you were part of the analytics transformation at GE. So tell us that story, like, what happened. I mean, you were part of GE Transportation, and then how that kind of how your role expanded there and all that. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, GE was a conglomerate, which kind of translated into every business being like a separate company. And the coming together of all those data analytics practitioners within GE happened when GE Digital was formed. It eventually got rolled back for poor execution, but it was still a very well thought of strategy to have like a community of practice or a center of excellence around certain topics across the conglomerate together, serving the entire conglomerate. So I had a lot of learning during those years of GE Digital, where every business had their own specific problems, but a lot of like 60-70% of the problems were common. So there was a lot of sharing, there was a lot of learning. I was taking up data visualization practice. I was trying to create something around that for the entire GE Digital and so on, right? So that's where my aspiration and my passion towards data analytics little bit transformed towards strategic point of view around the G digital formation areas.
Okay. 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 And how was Michelin experience, and, like, running the data organization sitting out of India? What kind of challenges were there, and, like, what was the learning in terms of, let's say, expanding the entire playing field to a global one, and what kind of, like, internal battles you have to fight?
To be honest, even in GE, it was always been global. Okay, but when what I did not realize was cultural differences play a lot. I was born and brought up in American companies. Professionally, I was an American, while from heart I'm an Indian. But when I joined Michelin, I found the importance of cultural alignment to organizational hiring, to yourself, to how you act, how you communicate, how do you push an idea. and so on. So and that is where, and there is a saying within Michelin, and my Michelin colleagues on the call would agree that Michelin is like an elephant, right? So it takes time to move, but once you move, the momentum it catches is unstoppable. So that's actually what happened, right? So for that initial momentum and the thrust, I had to culturally align myself in kind of pushing certain ideas, new strategies, and so on. What added spice to this entire mix was COVID. So I joined Michelin in 2019. First year, I traveled a lot. Almost 50% of my time I was in France. But second year,
Looks like we have a
2020, 21, we all know what happened. So managing all these
Vijay. We seem to have a bandwidth challenge on your side. If you have a alternate network, can you connect on that? You're frozen right now. Vinay, can you call up Vijay and tell him that his video is frozen and if he can connect on an alternate network? Yeah. Hey, so while Vijay comes back, let us pick up some more audience, comments from here. So we have Santosh, uh, our ex-GE colleague. So,
Hey, am I back? Can you hear me?
oh yes, Vijay, yes. I was just acknowledging a few more audience comments. But you're again frozen, man. Do you have an alternate network?
Uh, yeah, I mean, I do. I've connected to that already. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
No?
Now it's okay. Now it's okay. Much better. Yeah. 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 So Michelin, we are talking about Michelin, and
Yeah,
then
I was
you had
just
a little
saying
bit of a.
the lockdown added additional spice to the challenge that was already there, So, but fantastic time at Michelin. A lot of learning around cultural alignment, which is increasingly becoming critical to transformation journeys.
So what are one or two things that that help you succeed? When you were running a leadership role out of India, and what was the biggest challenge?
Uh, so I think my it has always been this way. My team is my biggest strength. So be it in G, be it in Michelin, and now in UPL, I create an environment of trust with my organization, and I make it very open. I make it very transparent, and they know that if that trust is broken, they will not get it again, right? So it is a mutual trust. They trust me, I trust them, and it has always been that way. An entire organization built on trust to take care of the activities, the deliverables for the year, the objectives, goals, everything. And that kind of opened my time towards working on future strategy. What should we be focusing next year? What is the next big thing that we need to embrace, and so on, right? So that has always been that way. And uh, the challenge with Michelin on cultural alignment opened another window for me, which is how do you explain technology to non-technical folks, right? I found that very interesting. After data analytics philosophy and learning continuously, this is the new thing I found like a year back on how are some of the complex technological concepts be explained in a fairly simpler fashion. And it's usually not to go into the nitty gritties, not to go super deep into the complexities of the technical implementation itself, but to explain the gist of it so that they know the value coming off of it, and they know what it takes to do that, right? So I think that is what that's what been my newfound area of interest, let's say.
Okay, awesome. So let me summarize it a little bit. I think so. What Vijay talked about is that while the transactional systems that we put in place, for either collecting data or for various process controls, they are a pain. But then analytics tends to be a savior. That is where people get real tangible value. They can see that the data that we enter, how it comes back to us as actionable information. So the value is added by analytics while the processes are run using the transactional systems. I think the other one, what we just said is the team is the biggest strength, open, transparent, objective. And he missed out one part, which I know, knowing Vijay, is fun. Okay. I mean, so all the guys out there in UPL who are listening to this particular one, never ever be scared to ask Vijay out for a party. And I can promise you can have the wildest of parties with Vijay. Okay. And that's when, I must say that Vijay, we used to have quite a few of those in G Transportation. And I mean, what a team that built, what a close-knit team that built, right? So you can't take the fun out of you have to have fun for building a good culture and good team. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I know why you didn't mention it, so I'll skip that part.
So that's also credit to my team. When I said the team took
Yeah.
care of things, fun was also a big portion of it. And the same was the case at Michelin. The same today we are creating in UPL also, right? So my colleagues from UPL, yeah, we are going to make it big. So
Absolutely, absolutely. So Vijay, before I go further to data democratization, there is some questions coming here. So there's a question from Dattatray who says, what role does data governance plays in decision-making activity, and what are the ideal tasks do data scientists, engineers play in the organization? So let me add a little bit of my flavor to that, Vijay. The first time around when I was a data and analytics, when I started the first big analytics program, as part of CRM in Tata Motors, we actually went a little overboard and we created a tons of KPIs, for everyone. And then we had this problem of what they call as, just too many KPIs out there, and ifs and buts happening between them. So I think in that perspective, if you put it there, this also gives us a good segue to our question around data democratization. That there's a fine balance between data sprawl, right, or the KPI sprawl, let me call it, versus data democratization. So Vijay, while you answer that question, I'll put you on a solo mode and I'll step out, for a quick 1 minute. I'll be within the earshot of the computer, so I'll be hearing everything. But go ahead while I put myself, while I put you in the focus here. Okay.
sure. So that means I cannot talk about you.
No, you can definitely talk about me.
So to the data governance, right? So it is the most critical aspect. We are talking about data-driven decision making, data-driven business processes. Governance brings the most important aspect to that data drivenness, which is trustable data. If your data is not trustable, how can you trust analytics coming off of that data? In fact, I keep saying this a lot, right? A good analysis done on bad data is worse than no analysis at all, right? So because it will most likely point you in the wrong direction, which even with gut feel you would have probably not so optimally, but you would have still gone in the right direction, nudged yourself ahead. So data governance for me has a biggest role in decision making, in data driven decision making. And that goes without saying. And data scientists, data engineers are the folks who bring the trustability, who convert a raw data that gets created through various transactional systems into trustable data sets, into explainable, transparent, trustable models that eventually convert into either automated actions or even recommendations that are trustable again. So if you look at everything I said, the theme of that is being trustable, being very transparent, explainable. So, Dattatray, I think the answer to your question is absolutely very important, because trustability is built into all of that. And Jagdish talked about democratization, right? So, uh, and the balance between giving people the power of data, but not landing with too many KPIs that we do not have a governance around, right? So, and it is as simple as that, right? Uh, the power of data enables people to think data first. They will not, and I think it kind of uh, trains the mind to think in the dimension of data. That is what data democratization does. It is more cultural than anything to do with, oh, I build my own KPIs. Based on my KPIs, I'm always gold and all that, right? So I think there is the good balance between that is, while doing that, is governance on global KPIs. When we have, let's say, an on-time delivery, there was a point in time in my life where in one of the organizations there was 5 different definitions of on-time delivery. In fact, we got everybody into a room. We said, let's write down what should be the definition of on-time delivery, so that we start consistently measuring that across the board, right? So uh, the intent of democratizing data is not to have too many KPIs, too many versions of whether we are red, yellow, or green, but it is to train the people, train the minds of all of us to think data first. That's simply what it is. Jagdish, I cannot hear you.
Sorry, I muted myself and I didn't unmute. The
No problem.
most common problem.
Absolutely.
So Vijay, let's move on to the data democratization. I think you covered quite a bit of it, but it is a very much talked about topic, but very hard to execute. Probably, I think governance being one of the major problems. So how do you approach it, and how do you what's the framework that you use? What are, let's say, 2 or 3 things that you will do to create the data democratization? So one of them, you talked about the governance part of it, right? The data
Correct.
governance, which builds the fabric of trust. If people don't trust data, you cannot bring in a data culture, right? So the governance is necessary for trust, and you have to, wherever you feel like a distress appearing, you basically address that with some sort of a governance. What are the other few elements? Of course, you can talk a little bit about technology, and you can talk a little bit about the business participation and inclusion. How do you do that?
So in fact, I came across this somewhere. I don't remember to quote the source, but usually data democratization is misunderstood uh, as data access. When you give access to a lot of data to a lot of people, even the rightful people, that doesn't mean you have democratized data. You've just opened data access. And for me, the 3 dimensions of democratizing data are tools, culture, and comfort. Technology aspect is definitely an enabler, right? But that's not the end of it. So you should have intuitive tools that need not, become a bottleneck in you accessing and analyzing the data. Second is culture. There is a saying, right? You can take the horse to a pond, but you cannot make him or her drink water. uh, and data democratization culture is about making the horse feel thirsty. So that's what, thirsty for data, employees feeling thirsty for data. So it should be top down. Any cultural shift generally is top down easy. So all the managers should make sure that they are data driven, they are data first in their thought process. It kind of rubs on the entire organization. And thirdly, comfort. How comfortable it is. I might have the right culture, I might have the right tools. Am I comfortable in using data, in accessing it, in using my tools, knowledge of the data? Because sometimes I might have access to the data, but then something like customer name could be called as CX underscore F field underscore temp 5. But so my comfort is out of the window, right? So it should, and that's where the third dimension of knowledge of data, knowledge of how data is modeled, searchable data models and ontology, and making sure that you also have the knowledge of tools and technology that combines into that comfort feeling before data is truly democratized in an organization.
Sure. No, I think you really picked on the three most important aspects of it. I think the underlying one is the tools. Unless you have the right tools, you can't even talk about data democratization, right? So
Absolutely.
the second one that you talked about is culture. So I think again, very important one. I have actually many times I have told people that the culture is shaped by the leader, because whatever a leader does, the organization follows. So if you are looking at the dashboards generated by your systems, and you're saying, no, I'm not going to look at any other data, I think the whole organization will get aligned to that, and they'll make sure that your dashboards are correct, right? And third one, very importantly, the comfort, which is like, is it intuitive? Have you trained your people well enough? Are there support mechanisms available? Are there like some sort of communities available and all of that? So all the right ones, Vijay. So Vijay, I kind of realized that uh, like racing against time. Let me bring in a couple of. So let us do one thing. Okay, now I have the rapid fire round left now. And
Okay.
what I will do is that I'll bring in some, there are some outstanding questions from the audience. I'll bring them in as rapid fire questions. That means we need to really answer them fast.
Do I get a tea hamper at the end of it?
I haven't. I mean, that's a good idea. I haven't thought of a clarity as a tea hamper, but I'll surely think about it. Okay. So Vijay, um, you know, I mean, how important? I mean, let me put it this way. I remember that early in your career, when you were like doing a lot of things, somehow uh, you were passed up for promotions, and you still stuck. I mean, so what was it? Why?
So what was it? It was terrible. But why? Because for the sake of going deep, right? So I think that was the investment I made. No, that was a foundation I created before. Hopefully, I've raised a high raise, but that was a foundation that went into it. So if I look when I look back, at that time I was frustrated. Today I feel so happy that I invested a few years so that I was going deeper. I was creating something from scratch that existed, and I think that's what made me who I am today. I'm so happy about it.
I don't know. It actually resonates with me also, because I remember when I was onto this large program. First 2 3 years we were not making progress, and but we were doing the right things. In terms of like getting the basics in place. And yeah, if you really want to do something big, sometimes there is a thankless initial period. Where what you are doing is setting the path, is building the foundation, but not everyone is able to see it or appreciate it. I think you need to have that conviction. But I think, Vijay, another important message why I asked this question to you is also a message that I want to give to people in the audience, is that what is more important is like building the capabilities of the horse, and the cart follows, the position and money and everything that follows. So you got to invest in yourself, and that's what exactly you were doing, right? So, Vijay, I know we passed up one question and I saved it for the rapid fire, right? So, uh, uh, let's do a quick one on, the explaining technology to non-technology people, okay, with similes or analogies, okay?
Okay.
So, rapid fire, 3 sentences each. Cloud,
Uh, shared three sentences, but I would just say shared asset.
okay, okay, great. I suddenly think like, oh, Uber is also cloud. Actually, so. Yeah. What's the difference between AI and ML? How will you explain to a business leader?
So back to my analogy of wife, mother, mother-in-law telling something is going to get screwed up. is ML, but making sure an action is taken to kind of rightful action is taken to pacify and avoid the situation is kind of AI.
Oh wow. So AI is always positive, right?
ML, kind of takes you there, but AI is the ultimate witness.
Okay, okay, interesting, interesting. Agile.
Uh, Incremental value. That's what I've always seen through Agile. So fail fast, learn quick, but also value need not be a long-term play. You can actually have incremental value at chewable pieces.
Yeah. Okay. So waterfall is the elevator, and this is the staircase.
Yes, fantastically put. So, but yeah, but let's just say escalator, huh? Because it's equally fast. You
Okay,
need not
okay,
stop.
okay, okay. Yes, yes, yes. I agree. I agree. I'll go with that refinement. Yes. And yeah, there's one little known, lesser known aspect of you is the languages that you know. So, what all languages do you know, and how? Why?
uh, I was actually quite surprised by my ability to learn a new language. I'm quite
Uh-huh.
comfortable learning a new language, so I can speak French decently well. My French colleagues have told me that I'm fairly good, which is I think a big takeaway for me. I have also certified in basic Spanish, and I learned Japanese way back at the start of my career. So but I don't remember. I remember a little bit of Japanese, French fairly fluent, and Spanish getting there. With UPL, I think I would learn and refresh my Spanish as well.
Awesome, awesome. So here's a
Other than,
small
other than of
since you
course,
said,
English, Hindi, and Tamil. Huh? Sorry.
of course, of course. So here's a small quiz for you. Since you said you know French, okay. So
Oui.
what is the French term for champagni?
Uh, for Vino,
No, no. What is the French term for champagni?
Vino. No, is it not Vino?
Just write this. It is
Or,
champagne.
yeah, I know.
I got you.
Oh, okay. No, no. I was generalizing it as Vino. Vino is wine.
Ah, okay, okay, okay. But you know, like we used to call in our college days, we initially used to read champagne as champagni until someone told us that it is champagne, but it is not champagni.
Oh, by the way, a call out, quick side call out there. Huh? So I've been to Bordeaux, and then there is a place there where you learn all about wines. Okay, so the history of it,
Oh,
the manufacturing process, the different taste, and so on. I wouldn't call myself an aficionado, but I learned a lot about wines in Bordeaux.
awesome, awesome. So, Vijay, another rapid fire for you. This one is coming from Souveek. So, he's asking for both our opinions. So, I'll give a one liner, but your one liner. It's a tricky question, though. Since you are both part of GE Digital Time, what went wrong in the execution of GE Digital strategy? Why was scaling the digital practice not possible to other organizations?
You want to go first, Jagdish, or should I?
I don't know. You go first. You have spent more time in GE.
So I think trying too soon to that's I believe what I did not like about the execution strategy. So it was a well drafted strategy. If it was executed piecemeal with incremental value with an MVP mindset overall, it would have still been a big win from the conglomerate itself. Of course, there are a lot of other factors that pulled the group down back then, which is again reviving right now. But for me, in terms of G Digital itself and the rollback, this was the big aspect.
Yeah, I mean, I would echo that sentiment that when I was like transforming Tata Motors IT and my when I have been transforming different functions, the sort of time I give for each transformation, I've been elongating it because of the change management impact of it on people. on people, on various functions, just for the entire organization to absorb what you're trying to do. It takes time. So, initially when I was an IC, I used to I used to think of making an impact in a week's time, and as I kept going up, I started giving more and more time. So even in Tata Motors, I said, it will take me at least 3 to 4 years to transform the IT function. And G wanted for an organization of G's size, okay, you are trying to do that in like 1 year. And 1 year or maybe 18 months, which is like just asking too much from the people as well as from the organization. And I think that's where a lot of mess that happened. I mean, end of the day, Souveek, anything which doesn't go right, the answers are always in execution. Yeah, but sometimes trying to run too fast can mess up your execution. So Vijay, another rapid fire. How do you see Industry 4.0 evolving, and are you seeing more and more analytics asked around machine data, or is the mindset is still operational and business data?
A fantastic question from Jiten. So, in fact, at UPL, right? So, one of the biggest programs that are running with multi-million value is our digital lighthouse program for our manufacturing facilities. We have actually taken up a bunch of very critical process within UPL manufacturing, and we are adding value through analytics, and we are already seeing millions in benefits in just the first pass, right? And there's much more to go. So I see it's not very operational. It is not at this point in time. I think Industry 4.0 is opening doors for the factories, for even the specific sub processes within factories, to be more data driven and see a lot of value through being data driven.
Awesome, awesome. So that kind of you can just add a little bit to that to the question for Imran. He's asking what is your roadmap going forward in UPL and the key problem statements that you'll be addressing. You can talk in terms of the business problems that you'll be solving.
In fact, I will put it the other way around, right? So somebody asked me a few months back, what is your data strategy? And my answer is my strategy is not to have one, right? In today's world, data analytics is just the way you run the business. You cannot have a specific data analytics strategy. Every function in UPL will have a digital and analytics strategy of its own, and enabling that is my responsibility, and that's my strategy as well. So my roadmap going forward will be completely driven by business priorities and the specific functional priorities for various aspects of UPL, and that's what we are enabling. Couple of very quick examples. Like I said, there has been bunch of manufacturing use cases, in fact 12 of them that have already been listed with multi-million values. It is going to transform how we manufacture our products, how cost efficiently we are able to manufacture our products. We are looking at marketing analytics. We are looking at analytics in terms of technology play, the R&D work that we do. How do we get through registration process and so on? So like I said, data analytics will be the heartbeat of UPL, with which every function, every aspect of UPL will kind of thrive going forward. So that's my dream and that's my strategy.
And I think what I gather from what you just said is more like a hub and spoke strategy. So while you need to be looking at data from a corporate point of view, there have to be function specific data strategies as well, which those functions need to own, right? Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay, so Vijay, we are kind of down to the fag end of our chat. So there is a long question from Karthikeyan Sivaswami, which is more like I will skip that because that's too long and that's asking for a very specific answer.
Ping me, Karthik. I will answer that separately on LinkedIn.
Yeah. So I think it is there on the chat comments. It is there. So Vijay, you can answer that later. Or why don't I suggest to Karthik? Karthik, why don't you just drop a personal message to Vijay on LinkedIn, and he'll answer that question. Okay, so I just wanted to bring in someone here. Hey, dear Jagdish and Vijay. So this is Mr. Vijay Sethi, former CIO of Hero Motors, and he was my first guest, and he has then come many times on the chat. Whenever we celebrate something, we remember him because he's very dear friend and very dear for the Clarity Chat because he was the first guest. Thank you, Vijay sir, for joining this. Maybe a couple of more questions. Again from Karthikeyan. If data is democratized, who are the citizen estates? Are they developer citizens, media citizens, compliance, security, governance citizens? I mean, you can give a quick two-liner answer to that, Vijay.
I think more than citizen, I would focus on owners of data. So what I have learned, implemented in my last 3 to 4 years is data ownership. Okay, so it is easy to say, oh, this data needs to be democratized. It is very difficult to say I will be accountable if the data lands in the wrong hands and there has been some impact to the company negatively, right? So that ownership, accountability of data is very important for democratization, even before democratization. So that's where at Michelin, now in UPL, we are segmenting the enterprise data into data domains, identifying very specific owners, educating them on what that ownership will mean in terms of responsibilities, accountabilities, and then we democratize data, right? So otherwise it becomes cart before the horse, right? So that's not the ideal.
So what you're really saying is that first democratize the ownership of data before you democratize the data itself. Okay. So Vijay, we are kind of at the end of it, and this has been a very very power packed and efficient chat. You've been very very precise. So but I always tell my guests that like I'm grilling you for most of the time, so you need to get your revenge. So you get a revenge question. I asked you many. You get one. So what's your question to me?
Right before our chat today, you told me normally after this chat, you spend a few minutes with a person in a retrospective format and sharing feedback and so on. But you said you don't have time for me and you asked me to get out at the end of this chat. Why is that? What's happening to you today?
No. We'll still do that, Vijay. It's just that so today we have the India sort of launch of. It's a small launch of our startup Flock and Go.
Fantastic.
Um, this is a group experiences one, and we are sponsoring a golf event here. So right now we are focusing on golfing community as someone who could use the app to come together, buy together, conduct the
Brilliant.
golfing events together. So we have the big one there. I'm also on the organizing committee. I'm also a sponsor. So there's a bit of I would say it just gets on your nerves a little bit. So I said, you know what? I mean, generally I go 30 minutes over, 15 minutes, 30 minutes over when the discussion is very engaging and there are quite a few questions. But I'll have to control myself today. So yeah. So right now we are actually we're in a invitation only mode right now. We want to refine the product to a level where we feel confident that yes, people won't get negative surprises. But yeah, everyone is happy to everyone is welcome to join the waitlist, download the app and join the waitlist. So
Fantastic.
that's like something else interesting that I'm doing apart from Clarity Chat.
So excited, so exciting to know that. All the very best. It's a big day today, then, right? So I will not
Absolutely.
bother you, but we'll still talk about it.
Sure, Vijay. So I think that brings us to the end of the chat. So thank you all my audience for attending and engaging, and thank you all of you who are watching the recorded version as well. Please enjoy your family time, and thank you Vijay for joining me on Clarity Chat today.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Jagdish. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.